Having not watched much of Sword Art Online since its first 2 seasons, going to the theater on the Monday night to watch Sword Art Online Progressive, a movie based on a light novel of the same name, I expected a nostalgia trip, and promised that this would not only be a visual update, but a redemption to the story skipped within the original floating castle of Aincrad. But as I left the theater, what I felt wasn't satisfaction, nor was it dissatisfaction, but rather an odd mixture somewhere in between. Try as it may, SAO Progressive, Aria of Starless Night, feels more like an OVA, an addendum to the story of SAO rather than a movie in and of itself. And I think this feeling is caused by what boils down to 2 major reasons. What I think is SAO Progressive's greatest strength, but also its greatest pitfall is the decision to make Asuna its main character. It's her struggles and her story that we follow throughout the movie. When we start out with Asuna, she's struggling with living up to her parents' expectations, not having a strong sense of identity, and her lack of confidence in who she is. It's not until she meets Mito, a girl quite literally at the top of her class and a major gamer, that she finds someone who she feels she truly belongs with. But even then, Asuna is still unconfident. She doesn't truly know who she wants to be, and interacting with Mito simply validates this. Mito is the best at what she does, she's the best in her class, and we see that she's the best, at least until we meet Kirito, at gaming. To Asuna, Mito owes everything that she isn't, and from that, we get an innate, implied desire from Asuna to be more like Mito. So having Mito play Asuna's foil is an excellent idea, and how she interacts with Mito can tell us more about what kind of a person Asuna is. Enter Sword Art Online, the game that Mito introduces to Asuna, is something that's quite removed from Asuna's comfort zone. Asuna at the beginning isn't a gamer. She sets her real name as her username, her real image as her avatar, and doesn't understand that she's talking to an NPC instead of a real person. That side of Asuna is something I think SAO Progressive does a great job of exploring. It gives us more insight into a character that, for better or for worse, felt like an addition to Kirito, more than the star of her own story in the original telling of Aincrad. However, how the movie handles her growth from here is where I believe it falls short. Having Asuna grow with the leadership of Mito isn't inherently bad. It allows us to see how these two play off of each other and gives great insight into the world of Aincrad. If there's anything that SAO Progressive does amazingly, it's the world building. Through a brutal scene of players dying and framing death inside the game as a true threat, Aincrad has an uneasy undertone that works great. There's a danger there that isn't as prevalent and not nearly at the same level in the original story. So when Mito leaves Asuna to die when fighting monsters, this is a pivotal event that should hold great importance to not only the story, but also Asuna. And to its credit, while the movie tries this, the way Asuna reacts to it afterwards is rushed and unsatisfying. After being saved by Kirito, Asuna immediately goes to being the edgy solo player that is untrusting of others. And while this is fine, we never get any time to see how Mito's actions hurt Asuna, nor do we see how it affects Mito. Having framed Mito as an important character to Asuna, someone who Asuna strives to be like and looks up to, and then subsequently abruptly removing her completely, deprives the movie of a central, cohesive story. Because while this is the story about Asuna, it has to follow the main story of the original Sword Art Online.
SAO は普通のゲームじゃない。命がかかっている。
The decision to make Mito a pivotal character in a story that is ultimately overshadowed by the main story of Asuna and Kirito causes the movie to struggle to tie the two together. So while the first half of the movie is about Asuna and Mito, the second half is completely devoid of Mito until the end fight. And while I suspect most people greatly enjoy seeing Asuna and Kirito's interactions in the second half, the two parts of the story lack a cohesion that ties their ideas together. In the second half, we are introduced to an Asuna that has felt betrayed and is untrusting. The person that she trusted the most failed her in her most dire moment, and when we hit her lowest point,
we are open to the greatest change.
But while Asuna does change somewhat, her change is once again from an outside influence, in this case Kirito instead of Mito. After what is little more than some cream on bread and a shower, she opens up relatively quickly to Kirito, going from trusting to untrusting back to trusting again without any internal growth from Asuna herself. Because of this, while the story centers around Asuna, she's really not much of a character at all. She flips character traits on a dime, and as such, when she forgives Mito in the final battle, the impact isn't as strong as it could have been. Asuna ends up in the same state she was if Mito's decision to leave her behind had not happened. And that event's impact on Asuna becomes minimal, if any. Because none of this ultimately mattered, Mito as a character feels lackluster and underutilized. She's not truly a character, but rather a plot reason for Asuna to become confident in the game and a reason for her to meet Kirito. At the end of the day, we never see Mito again, and her friendship with Asuna doesn't hold any true impact on the story moving forwards. So where does this leave us? With a new self-progressive movie on the horizon, I can't help but feel uncertain on its success as a truly impactful story. Throughout self-progressive, Aria of a Starless Night, its main strength and what I remember going out of it isn't Asuna's growth, but rather the thrilling fights and the world building that it accomplished. Interestingly enough, Kirito's character is my favorite in the entire film. While he seems invincible in the original Sword Online, we get to see him being clumsy and uncertain. Though he's a god gamer, he still struggles with talking to a new girl and how to carry himself. When he fails to put his sword in his shoulder sheath multiple times, he characterizes Kirito as someone who is more than just the invincible black swordsman that other characters view him as. At the end of the day, self-progressive may be little more than an addendum to the original story in my books, but for fans of Sword Online, there is much to be excited about. Some movies have proven that they have some of the best action sequences in all of anime, and self-progressive serves as a nostalgia trip back to the world of Aincrad. So while this wasn't the redemption for Asuna nor a change to the story of Aincrad, Sword Online still has the charming appeal that pulled me to watch it for the first time nearly a decade ago. Especially when that chilling soundtrack plays.
Kirito? これがあなたの名前? すぐに街を出よう.
Thanks for watching. I hope this video essay didn't come across as hating SAO, but rather a realization to the potential that SAO still holds in its characters. If you enjoyed, please subscribe, and I'll see you all next time.